for my voice, but I have never seen anything like it.
Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
On the Zoom call, we got the legendary Adam Lefkoe from the Lefkoe podcast, NBA on TNT. It's great. How you doing, man?
The legendary Adam Lefkoe.
Look,
that's pretty good. I'll take it, Andrew.
I'm out here. I gotta hype you up, my guy, because I said this a long time ago. I was like, this Lefkoe guy, he's got something.
I appreciate that. I thought that too. That's why I kept working. But I like the vibe. It looks like a Tebow jersey, Jordan floating through the air.
Yeah, this is my little studio.
Luka?
I do these collage like posters and stuff. So this is my little YouTube studio because of COVID.
I get it. And I'm here in an Atlanta Airbnb holding a microphone because of COVID. And I'm not leaving this. I don't trust anybody outside. I'm staying in. I'm cooking. I'm watching basketball, and that's it.
So, Adam, how'd you get discovered? Because, somebody who graduated college, who's in the COVID era, it's really hard for sports media people to break in, let alone to get to the level you were at. How did you get discovered? How did you network and get in?
First thing I will say is what's crazy is there's never a moment where people go, you've made it. The difference is now when I talk to people like yourself, you tell me that I've made it, and it blows me away because I'm not kidding when I think about all of those years where me and Sims were working for Bleacher Report and nobody was listening, and we would get so angry. And then one day we said something and people started reacting. We're like, holy crap, they're listening. So there's never a moment. I was very traditional. I went to Syracuse because I saw about all the broadcasting success they had with Bob Costas and Tirico, but I was also not the best student. Like, they would show up on time and I would be kind of hungover, but I was like, I think I can do this. First job was in Nebraska, was there 2 years as a news reporter, one-man band, made $18,500 my first year. Shot my own stuff, wrote my own stuff, edited my own stuff, produced it. I was the news director. On Sundays, I would pick my own stories. It was crazy. And that was amazing because kind of like what you're doing right now, you get a lot of the reps. And when you see me on NBA on TNT, I can handle a lot of stuff because I've been on camera so many times in a live situation that the fear is gone. So it's amazing. It sucked living in the middle of nowhere when all your friends are in New York and you're in Nebraska and you got no money and you can't fly home and all you got to do is keep working. Second job, I still haven't done sports. I covered high school football. Then I went to Louisville, Kentucky, where I was a news reporter. After a few months, I convinced them to move me to sports. I was there for 3.5 years. Salary went up to like 36, 38, 40. And I covered a Louisville championship with Gorgie Jang and Montrezl Harrell and Peyton Siva and Russ Smith. I covered Kentucky championships with Anthony Davis and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist and all those guys. Some good football with Teddy Bridgewater. And then I went viral a little bit because I got really bored. I'm 26, 27 years old. I've been in Louisville for 3.5 years. I thought about switching to sports radio because I was like, I'm going on TV for 3 minutes a night. I'm wearing a suit and tie. No one my age is watching. What if I let people online tell me what to say on television? And so I did that for a few weeks and people started telling me they liked it. And then I came up with themes and I did a wrestling one, a Seinfeld one, and then a rap one. And this is back in 2013 and they went viral back when you could go viral. I kind of got found there by Bleacher Report and they had me doing 20 videos a day where it was kind of like Zoom when people weren't comfortable doing Skype, and I would interview reporters and I would go, this was my whole day for 8 hours a day. I'd go, a lot of questions about the Tampa Bay Bucks this year. What's going to take them over the top? Is it Tom Brady or an X Factor? Let's go to Rich Gosselin of the Tampa Bay News-Gazette for the 3 X Factors. And then I would sit there and I would nod my head for 1.5 minutes while he would talk. And I'd go, we'll see if they can have an impact next season. And then it would go in the app and nobody was watching my shit. But at that time, I kind of thought I made it because I was at Bleacher Report and it felt big. But Bleacher Report then wasn't what it is now. And then I got some TV opportunities. And so that's just my path. But for what you said about when I got kind of found, you don't realize when you're being tested to see if you have it. So you might as well bring it every time. When I was at Bleacher Report, there'd be these little events that the Turner people, now Warner Media, would be like, hey, maybe Adam can host it. It would be a pregame show on a smaller network, or it would be a pregame show for a bigger thing, or an interview segment. Every time I did one, I don't think I realized, but they were watching. And they were trying to see, can I handle every moment? And so my goal was, anytime you put me in a situation, I'm going to crush it. And then after a while, I guess they just thought, we think that he deserves a chance on the Tuesday show. And I'm so thankful for it because I'm sitting next to Shaq, D-Wade, and Candace, and recently Vince Carter. And I got Andrew Zimmel telling me that I've made it. So it's a constant process, but I vividly remember where I was at your age. Like, vividly.
Here's the thing is that, like, you're not that much older than I am. Like, I'm 22, 23.
I'm 34. I got 12 years on you.
But it's like you see somebody who doesn't look like, and no offense to EJ, it's somebody that you can look at and be like, okay, if he could do it, then I could do it. And I work in sports radio. Everybody, the listeners know that I work in sports radio, and it's all old people. It's terrestrial radio. And it's,
yes.
You get the microphone and you die with the microphone. So it's nice. It's refreshing to see people who make it and, like, get in. Like Charlotte Wilder, who I think we both are,
sure.
We know. I found out about her a long time ago, and just to see somebody that's like didn't see Nixon's election, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Somebody younger than the normal person making it is just, like, refreshing, I think.
So the one thing I'll say is there's 100% thing because it's representation. You feel like your views are mattered more. Now, having that history is what I think separates some young people from other young people. Because I think some young people think they're going to come in and simply them being young is going to be cool. But if you don't know the history of what you're talking about, now you're going to be seen as ignorant or young and dumb. So I'll say, man, like, from when I was 22 to 34, it has been constant. Like, my fiance wants me to take days off, and I just don't know how, because for me, this is my passion. You know what I mean? And the growth happens over time. So that's why I would say, like, if you really believe that 22 to 34 is short, that's an amazing philosophy to have, because a lot of people think, man, how am I going to get there? It's so long. As long as you are patient and you realize that your effort, if consistent, is there, you will continue to move up. I will say that one other thing I have for young people is, a lot of times when you're in the chair that the older guys are in, the microphone's there, you tend to, and I say people tend to fall back on things they grew up with. Like, I remember when I first kept doing it, I would emulate the radio broadcasters from Philly when I grew up, where you'd kind of act like them because you want to seem more mature in the place. The number one thing, if you can figure it out, is how do I lean into being young without alienating people that are old, but never forgetting who I am. Don't be somebody else and go up there and be like, what do we think about the teams? It's no, if we want to talk about the shoes or the shirt that Russell Westbrook wore more than we want to talk about the final score, because that's what you and your friends are talking about, don't be afraid to lean into that. And I know that when I was younger, I would talk as though I was older because I wanted to be respected, and it's never about that.
Were you always patient?
When I made the decision to go to Nebraska, I didn't have a choice because I signed a 2-year contract, and having to make that trip created me to have to be patient, where I was still thinking about my future every day. And because there was no place to go, I would fill up notebooks with, and I would print out markets that I would want to go to. And I would watch people, and I would be like, and then I would go, oh, I like them. I like Bomani. Where did he go? And I would look up all that stuff. And I was always planning. I was always thinking about my future. And there would be moments where, I'd be sitting there in a parking lot about a city council meeting, and I'd go, I don't want to do this anymore. I had a million moments of I don't want to do this anymore. And I think, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because when you tell your friends and family that you want to be in the media, they brag. And they go, oh, he's going to be on ESPN one day, or, oh, he's going to be on, TNT or whatever. And you don't want to let them down. And so sometimes you're sitting there wrestling and going, is this what I want to do? Or am I doing this because I don't want to seem embarrassed in front of people and all that? But for me, you keep going because if you think you got it, man, there's no one that's going to tell you differently. There's just no one that's going to tell you differently. Getting into Stoicism helped my patience, though. It's a Greek philosophy. I don't need to do air quotes. It's a Greek philosophy. The author, Ryan Holiday, I read a few of his books, Obstacle is the Way. And it made me realize how short our lives are and how important it is spending time with people we love and doing things we care about. And once that all kind of clicked in my head, everything else is bullshit.
Now, a lot of people that I talk to that work with the guys like Shaq and Dwayne, they tell me that they get starstruck every time they see them. Do you get starstruck? And when's the last time you got starstruck?
I do not get starstruck by them anymore. And I don't know if I ever allowed myself to.
Uh-huh.
The first time I met Sims, I had already been working at Bleacher Report for 2 or 3 months. And it was right around the Super Bowl, and they had a party at Bleacher Report, and I heard Sims was coming in. And we were going to be working and doing a lot of videos. We didn't even do the podcast for the first year. And I remember everyone was nervous because they're like, this former football player, blah, blah. And I remember I went over, and I hit him, and I was like, I hear you're kind of a crybaby. And he was like, what the fuck? And we just started talking, and I'll never forget it because that's when I'm somebody's coworker,
mm-hmm.
I am not a fan.
Mm-hmm.
I look at everybody. I look at Wade and I look at Shaq and I look at Candace. They're just like my Sims, where my job is to make them look great. And then when it ends, I want people to go, oh yeah, and Lefkoe was pretty good too. And that's my goal because people tune in for them. And so very early on, I got a chance to have dinner with Wade. I had met Shaq over the years doing a bunch of different stuff. And I had met Candace from doing stuff on NBA Twitter Live. And it just hasn't happened. Now, when I bring friends around and they see Shaq, everybody stops. This is what happens when Shaq walks into a room, because I've seen it now a million times. When Charles Barkley walks into a room, everybody goes, they light up and they go to him. And they want to talk to him because everybody wants to hear what Charles has to say. When Shaq walks into a room, everybody freezes and they don't say anything because he's so big. So he walks in and people go, and then he'll give you the silent nod and then go to wherever he's going. But he does. Like I have famous friends that are stunned by Shaq. The last time that I was nervous was the first match, Tiger Woods versus Phil Mickelson. I was on the pregame show with Pat Perez, Barkley, and Samuel L. Jackson. And I was nervous about Samuel L. not liking me because I'm like, we're about to do a 2-hour pregame show. And what happens if early on he's just like, I don't know, man. Anyway, Charles. And I was like, I know, like, it will kill me. And I had these pants my friend Sarah picked out for me that had little tigers on them. And I came into the dressing room and he looks at me and he goes, I like your pants. And I was like, thanks, man. I wore them for you. And he's like, really? And I was like, no. I was like, I didn't wear them for you. I wore them for Tiger. And we kind of hit it off a little bit. And I say this all the time, but when Samuel L. Jackson, midway through the show, looked at me and was like, Adam, you're doing a great job. Like when the camera wasn't rolling, nobody can tell me anything anymore because like he to me is one of the coolest guys ever. So everybody else is not like that. And that was really the last time where I was nervous and I was happy that I kind of went right into him because it softened it up.
So we got to talk about football because,
Sure.
We got to. Patrick Mahomes, number 4.
The legend.
I'm in love with Patty Mahomes. I watched him when he was at Tech. when he went to the Chiefs, I was like, Alex Smith, you're my guy. But the minute they put him in there, he's going to be special. He's been incredible. I thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be the best quarterback of my lifetime. I had no idea that Patty was going to do what he does. Number 4 on the NFL 100, though. Like, what are your thoughts?
I love it for Pat because I think it's a very interesting time we live in. It feels even different than 3 years ago, where when this thing happens on social, maybe it's because we're all inside with Corona with nothing to do, but like we have watched Jamal Adams leave the Jets in real time through tweets, Instagram posts, and everything. We see the arguments with Devontae Adams or Keenan Allen versus Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Like we would never see this stuff before. It would just, people would have to remember it if they played that season. And so now for something as dumb and as unrefined as the NFL Top 100, which everyone says every year means nothing. And then every year we argue about it until we're blue in the face. I don't understand it. But for Patrick Mahomes to come off of an MVP in his second year, a Super Bowl in his third year, sign a $503 million contract, and then own a part of the Kansas City Royals, and then for something to come in that gives him motivation to feel disrespected. Can you imagine winning an MVP, a championship, being a part owner of a baseball team and signing for the largest amount of money in the history of sports, and then going into the next season disrespected? I believe that he is somebody that can focus and use that. Do I think the rankings are insane? Yes. They're borderline criminal, and I think they should be stopped. But I think it's amazing that Pat Mahomes is going to have motivation for next year. That's wild.
How disrespected were you when they didn't put Wentz on the list at all?
First thing I did was I went and looked at his sports card prices because I believe that he's very undervalued. And I think that the NFC East, those two quarterbacks, we talk about them like they're a soap opera. Like, is Dak Prescott secretly the worst quarterback in the NFL? Is Carson Wentz a waste of space that should have been replaced by Nick Foles? Like, Dak and Carson Wentz are very good quarterbacks, top half of the league quarterbacks. Carson Wentz at his peak is a top 5 quarterback. Dak is a top 10 quarterback. And we blame guys with injuries for their injuries, and we don't look at the fact that Jadeveon Clowney dove into his back, or that he dove into the end zone against the Rams and it was a freak ACL hit. But when he's played, I could put together a highlight reel of Carson Wentz plays, and you go, holy crap, is that Patrick Mahomes? Like, don't forget rolling out and falling and throwing it 40 yards, or the escape against Washington, or what he did that year when he should have won MVP if he didn't get hurt. The NFL Top 100 is dumb. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes is 4th, just throw the whole list away. And that's why for me it's keep underappreciating Carson Wentz, and I'm thrilled he's my quarterback.
So I was talking to my buddy who's an Eagles fan, and I was saying that I think Wentz should have won that MVP because he missed, 2 games?
Yes, I believe 2.
In what other sport? Yeah. In what other sport do you miss 2 games of your season? You're at 14-1 or whatever, and all of a sudden the voters are like, "Yeah, no, the whole rest of the season didn't matter." Like Lamar this season.
Yeah, but in no other sports does 2 games mean the most. You know, 2 out of 82 is a small percentage. 2 out of 16 is 1/8. You know, like, so if that's the equivalent of missing about 10, 11 games in the NBA. And so, you know, if LeBron plays 82 games and averages 38-8, and Giannis plays 72 games and averages like that would be a part of the voting. So I do think that's big. We saw this a few years ago with Derek Carr and the Raiders when I think they were through like 13 or 14 games and he was an MVP candidate, and then they kind of collapsed. The thing with MVPs is it really is that lasting image in your brain. That's why a lot of the times the Heisman Trophy winner, it's the guy that, you know, comes out of nowhere, doesn't have expectations, and comes up through the year and then plays well at the end. It's somebody could play well for 9 weeks. They have one bad game and they're like, oh, no Heisman. Or you could have a bad first game, but then have an incredible next 10 and they're like Heisman. So it's unfortunate. I think when you miss the end, people overvalue it and don't look at it just as games.
I can see that. What do you think of the NFL restart? Do we see them have the same success that basketball had, or are they going to be more on the baseball side?
My new hot take, and boy, I hope I'm wrong, is that we see 2 NBA champions before we see 1 NFL champion. That the NBA season ends in October. It starts again December 1. Michelle Roberts came out yesterday and said we might have to play in the bubble again. This is, the players have to agree to it. But if they go the bubble again and they're there for this time, 6 months, that would be a long time, 6-7 months, and it would end in June, July. To me, that's a lot more doable. I can see it now. We haven't had positive tests in a few weeks. We're recording this on Thursday. We're seeing it tonight. The NFL, I defend NFL players every July. Usually what happens in a normal world is this is usually when they are done training their mini camp or whatever. They have a final month and a half off. A bunch of them go out and party. There's 3 arrests in 1 week, and the writers write articles that say, epidemic, NFL players are unruly. And I always go and say, hey guys, that was 3 out of 2,600. There's not that many total people in the bubble for the NBA. That's just players in the NFL. And they say it's a very small amount. The difference is here, if there's 3 guys in the NFL that go out, it can spread like this. Dumb mistakes at the bar is not contagious. If anything, we learn and it ends right there. I have a hard time thinking any professional athlete, any human, if they put your friends and my friends and all of us in a bubble, and it was up to us to restrain ourselves or, hey guys, don't do anything stupid, it's going to happen. That's what human beings do. And so if there's no bubble, I just don't have faith in the traveling and the incidental contact and the cross-contamination that wouldn't lead to a massive stop, especially in a sport where you could have a team from a hot spot in Florida going to a team in a hot spot in Texas, and they're going to bang into each other and breathe on each other, and it might be asymptomatic. I am just pessimistic right now, but again, I hope I'm wrong.
The thing about it is, too, and we talked about bubbles, where are you going to put all these NFL teams? Because it's not just the 22 guys on the field. It's the 100 players, staff, trainers, everybody that goes with them, too. There's not a city big enough to do it.
Look, I remember when the Lakers, I read a quote from their head coach about they weren't even allowed to bring all of their coaching staff. They had to make decisions which coaches and training people to leave behind. There are coaches that were setting up the weight room, assistant coaches. And my thing is people don't realize the amount of behind the scenes people in the NFL. And I have heard zero amount of lessening coaches on the road, and there's also 10x the amount of coaches and scouts, and the equipment itself. The only person that's got a lot of equipment in the NBA is PJ Tucker, because he's bringing every shoe imaginable. But the NFL, it's you got pads, you got all that stuff. There's no kicking nets you got to bring in the NBA. But man, I hope I'm wrong. I really do.
I don't love Rob Manfred in baseball. They haven't really figured it out yet. I think that we're closer to everything getting shut down again in baseball than we are to having a World Series champion. I'm just very nervous about that. Let's shift over to basketball because we get that tonight. 76ers, is that your team because you're from Philadelphia or from the Philadelphia area?
Philadelphia, everything. Sixers, Phillies, Flyers, Eagles.
All right, so how do we feel about Simmons playing power forward?
I do not remember the phrase, but it's the definition of insanity is doing things wrong and continuously doing them. If they came in and said, we're going to keep doing what we've always been doing, I would be upset at that. I think the fact that they're going to get Simmons the ball closer to the basket in a place where he really is at his best, because if you play off Simmons at the 3, you're daring him to shoot. And now there's a mental game of, I know that you can shoot. And you're putting doubt into his head. But if he gets the ball at the top of the block, where he's an elite passer, he could do a one dribble and get to the basket. I think you're putting him in a position to succeed. But I think the reason I'm very high on the Sixers right now is the atmosphere. We've always heard that some guys are practice players and some guys are in-game players. And this really got hit home to me on the Tuesday NBA on TNT show, where Shaq in the middle of the segment goes, you know what? I've never thought about that, because I asked him this in a commercial break. He said, I've never thought about the fact that when we would go and play a big game in Phoenix with the Lakers, or a big game with the Kings, or in the finals against the Pistons, Kobe wasn't nervous. I wasn't nervous. But a bunch of the others, as he called them, would look at you and you'd realize, I can't give him the damn ball. Like, he is hearing the 20,000 people yelling at him right now. And when I think about the Sixers and how they were 29-2 at home, and they had the worst road record in the NBA, and it was the biggest gap in the history of the NBA. I think a lot of people said in the beginning, how are they going to get hyped up? How are they going to be the 29-2 home team? And I'm sitting here going, guess what? We're no longer going to be the worst road team, because Simmons is Mr. AAU. It's always when he starts hearing doubts. Embiid is great, except when he's trying to pump up the crowd by shooting a three. What happens if Simmons and Embiid are in this crazy focus and they're not getting intimidated by the away crowds? There's like a few teams that I think it's going to benefit the most, and I think the Sixers are at the head of the pack. And again, I'm a Sixers fan, so I'm probably too optimistic.
I love it, though, because I have been off the 76ers. I liked them last year, and it just, that shot felt like it broke them. Now I get Kawhi and LeBron aren't in the East, so it feels like wide open again. But now you got Giannis. The Raptors don't feel like a team that you really can sleep on either. The Celtics, if everybody.
There's five teams. It's Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, Sixers, Heat. I think
you put the Heat in there.
I do put the Heat in there because I think we had Udonis Haslem on the show, and I just said, how is it in the bubble? And his quote was, there are certain teams that are made for this. And the Heat, we have always said, and I believe him on this, he said, the Heat have always believed, if you put us in a place, we will outwork you. That whole, and you rolled your eyes in the beginning of it, the whole, Heat mentality is a real thing. And I think that they're very multiple, and they can match up with anybody. I think when you have a Jimmy Butler and a Bam Adebayo and a Myers Leonard, you have a lot of guys that can play bigs, that can play forwards, and then you have the Nuns and the Heroes and the Duncan Robinsons to stretch you out. And the Heat are a run and gun team. The Heat, remember, Bam Adebayo shut down Giannis in a game this season. The Heat beat the crap out of the Sixers in Miami. They're a real team. Celtics, we know because the Tatum could be a beast. The Raptors are the defending champions, but I have concerns. I think Pascal Siakam is a little bit overrated compared to what people think he is. They think he's going to be Kawhi. He's not Kawhi. The Sixers are the biggest team and the best defense. Their question is, will Tobias Harris score? And my pick is the Bucks, because we always fucking do this. Sorry for cursing.
No, you're good.
There's always a team that's stacked from top to bottom, and we go, let's pick the teams that can upset them. And I'm sitting here going, you realize that Giannis is surrounded by Kyle Korver and Chris, that just shows you how underrated he is. Chris Middleton, and the Lopez brothers can shoot. They have a great coach. So I'm picking the Bucks to come out of the East.
Can I give you some pushback?
Sure.
What's different from last year to this year?
Well, I think Korver is a real piece. And I think also that Giannis is better. There's a reason that he's going to win back-to-back MVPs. And we do not give back-to-back MVPs unless there is improvement for the previous season. Anytime you see practice video of somebody, especially a big man shooting threes, don't believe the hype. Who knows what he missed? But his shot does look better. And I also think that – do you remember what the storyline was about the Raptors before last season?
That they couldn't win.
let's see what happens in the playoffs when they get there. And so that's kind of that's what we said about Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we'll see if he can win the big one. I'm not saying it's like storylines that connect like that, but for me, you have to imagine when you have a coach of the year candidate in Budenholzer, the reigning MVP, who Giannis, all we see him do is work on his game, and a ton of veterans and guys like Eric Bledsoe that are multiple and all this stuff, and Pat Connaughton. You have to imagine that you're not going to be able to do what you did to them last year. You have to imagine that they're going to work on it. And so the Bucks are still my pick, but we're going to learn a lot about Giannis, because if he does come out and he does figure out ways to beat all that crap, I mean, he's a baby. He's still got so many years left.
I said this, and James Harden is my case study for this, is that we love a player until he fails on the biggest stage. And Giannis didn't fail last year. He just ran into the Raptors.
Same way.
If he comes up short this year.
Manning was that way for a long time.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, if he comes up short this year, I think social media, the writers, everything is going to switch on this guy real quick.
So I have long had a potential theory that a lot of people assume, and am I going from left to right if I do this, from left to
good.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people assume that a career goes like this, like, and then like LeBron, he's up here. I think careers go like this, down. And what I mean is that anytime a player starts in the NBA, they start at, he could be the greatest player that's ever lived. And every time they miss a shot and every time something happens, that's how quickly it goes down. And the players that stay the highest, they're the greatest of all time. LeBron came in with all the hype, and sure, it's chipped away, but he has stayed up here. And I do agree with what you're saying, and it goes to what you said is we go, oh, Giannis is amazing. Giannis is amazing. But if he keeps losing, and it goes down, and you really are fighting to stay on the top. It's not fighting to get to the top. You're fighting to stay on the top.
Well, look at a guy like Steph Curry, who did nothing but work hard, win. He wins his first championship, and we're like, this guy's the greatest. They won 73 games. Great. He loses in the finals automatically. Big drop. And now you could argue he is one of the most disliked players from fans that aren't Golden State Warriors fans. Like, if you're outside of the Bay Area and you're not just an NBA lifer, there are a lot of people. I
haven't heard that. I have not heard that in a while. I feel like because Curry got hurt and Clay got hurt and Draymond got hurt and Durant left and he got hurt, and I thought the way they all went out in that finals, literally all playing until they got injured, is the most valiant thing that you can do in sports. I have not heard anybody talk crap about the Warriors all year, mainly because they've been the worst team in the league. But I feel like a lot of that went away. And I feel like the argument against Curry that we're going to hear for the next 30, 40 years is he never won a finals MVP. And whenever you're having the GOAT debates, because, Jordan won 6 of them, it's MVPs in the finals. And KD came in and won those. But at the same point, we will all remember for the rest of our lives how amazing Steph Curry was. And that when he shot a 3 and that arena went nuts, there was nothing more intimidating in sports for those 3 years. When Steph Curry was feeling himself and pulled up from the logo and drilled a 3 in your face, you'd look at your friends and you would say, this isn't fair. And anytime that you're saying that an athlete isn't fair, we say that with Mahomes. We say that with Mike Trout. That was Steph Curry for 3 years. And when you're that good, you're an all-time. Like, I think Curry's already a Hall of Famer. Like, already.
Yeah.
No doubt.
No doubt. Now, do you remember before Kobe won his first Finals MVP? Because there were still Kobe fans even after Shaq left. Of course. Do you remember people like discrediting him for not having any Finals MVP? Because I personally don't. I don't remember it.
I do.
Okay.
I remember because, that era, the mid-2000s into the 2008, when it was like the Celtics and the Lakers going back and forth and all that stuff, I remember that every offseason, the 2 most talked about athletes in the NBA were Kobe and AI. And both of them were rumored to get traded every year. that era after Shaq left, but before Powell and Lamar and those titles, Kobe was seen as selfish. Kobe's championships were discredited and given to Shaq. Like, I vividly remember that. And that's why I'm curious in the NFL standpoint, how Brady and Belichick are going to approach this season and if there is any more after this. Because look, if Belichick goes to the playoffs this year and the Saints beat out the Bucs in the NFC South, and you're looking at the Eagles and Cowboys in the East, and you're looking at the Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks, and Niners in the West, and that wild card spot's going to be tough, what happens if Belichick makes the playoffs and Brady doesn't? You know what I mean? And he does it with Cam Newton or Jared Stidham. Like, it would get into Brady's head, and I think Brady would play more. I think Brady would be like, you know what, I got to play 4 more years.
You're a smart enough guy.
Notion of winning without the other person.
You're a smart enough guy. You know that the likelihood of Belichick winning the East, the AFC East, 1,000% better odds than Brady and Bruce Arians winning the NFC South.
I don't know about after all of these opt-outs where like so many of the Patriots are going away. I also think it'll be interesting from this standpoint. Because there is so little interaction right now, and there's not real training camps and all this distance, I think the teams that have the most continuity have the biggest advantage. That's why I think the Cowboys are a very underrated team. I think the Steelers are an underrated. Like everyone's back. Chargers, everyone's back. Chiefs, everyone's back. So Stidham has a year in the system. Cam Newton doesn't. Brady, how quickly can he and Arians and with Gronk there get everybody? Like, it's both going to be a transition. I would say that the Falcons and I would take in your thing. I would bet on the Bucs over the Patriots. I really would. I would.
Really? See, I just don't buy it. I don't think that call me a doubter or whatever. I saw Tom Brady play last year. He did not look like Tom Brady of 2007. He didn't look like Tom Brady of 2016. He looks like a 40-year-old quarterback, and in a division with another 40-year-old quarterback, he's not even the best 40-year-old quarterback.
I agree with you. I think there were moments where it was really bad. I would also say this. He lost his center either before the season or right in the beginning of the year. They had a ton of offensive line injuries. They lost their fullback in the first game of the year, who's like their number one piece. And they were trying to trot out there just crap wide receivers and running backs. And his best weapons were James White and Sony Michel. I don't know if since Randy Moss and Wes Welker, he's had a better 1-2 than Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And I would argue that they fit his skill set better. And here's why. Moss, at that time of Brady's career, he still had a cannon lined up perfectly. But where he is now, I don't know if Brady can make that throw. But Brady is the master of the back shoulder. Mm-hmm. And Mike Evans can out-jump anybody right now. Chris Godwin, I don't know if he's as, legendary in the slot as Wes Welker, but I also know that he's more dangerous after the catch than Wes Welker. They've got a bunch of really good tight ends. And I think that Tom Brady has to do less with this team, which will make him look younger than he did last year.
You want to shave off 4 years? Fine. I'm still just not – I can't buy it. Like I get it. And I think people in Florida can buy it. I think Bucs fans could buy it. I think that and especially because without the continuity, it's going to be a bunch of defensive games in the first half of the season. It's going to be a bunch of defenses.
He's going to get the Panthers defense twice. They stink. He's going to get the Falcons defense twice. They stink. I'm not sure about the rest of their schedule. Look, I'm with you. If I'm rating my quarterbacks 1 through 32 in terms of starters, he's around 10, which is like really low for Tom Brady. But I have to imagine that with Bruce Arians and him, they're going to be able to come up with offenses even before they get on the field that's beating a defense. And I still have faith because I think when you're a GOAT, You just do go stuff.
So speaking of faith, Jordan Love in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers is already starting to look like it. We know that Rodgers is a little bit moody. I'm not that worried about it. If I was a Packers fan, I think that a Rodgers with a little bit more fire in the gut than he already has is a good one to have on your team. Do you how much stock are you buying in on Rodgers wanting out?
Oh, I don't think it's much as that. I think I saw something the other day that when Aaron Rodgers didn't get voted into a top thing on the top 100, he won the MVP next year. I have seen this happen to Tom Brady when they drafted Jimmy G. When they drafted Jimmy G, he was really the first one that came into camp and people went, oh man, this kid looks good. Ryan Mallett, remember when the Patriots drafted him? Strongest arm in the NFL, but he wasn't accurate, so it wasn't real. Same thing with when they brought in all the other guys. And it rejuvenated Brady. Last year, the storyline for the Packers was, can Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur get along? What will they do in the 2-minute drill? I mean, we talked about it all the fucking time. And the questions were, Matt LaFleur's offense wasn't that great in Tennessee. How do we know it's going to be good here? And so Aaron was really about working together and trying to show that he's a good teammate. Now it's pissed off Aaron. I believe that Aaron is going to have one of the better years that he's ever had. I know I'm more afraid of the fact that they lost Brian Bulaga than I am about the fact that they've drafted Jordan Love. I think A.J. Dillon, if they can turn him into the Derrick Henry and make Aaron Jones, the Dion Lewis that they were trying to do there in the Tundra, I like that defense. And I have faith on some of the young wide receivers really stepping up, but they did lose Devin Funchess. I think he's going to be great. And I think that Jordan Love is going to bring a lot because Aaron has been there with guys like Brett Hundley, guys that we know that Aaron's better than. But Jordan Love's going to get out there, and they're both going to roll out and throw, and Jordan's going to look more athletic. And they're going to throw it, and Jordan might throw it. I don't want to say as hard as Aaron because Aaron has a cannon, but they'll go, And as soon as that happens, that's when Aaron Rodgers is going to just destroy people. Very excited for that.
Where do you put him? Quarterbacks you're most afraid of?
In what? In today's game?
Yeah.
Top 5. And I'm putting him 5. So my guy Sims has him at 3. I agree with Sims' top 5. But I would go Mahomes 1, Russell Wilson 2, Deshaun Watson 3, Lamar 4, Aaron Rodgers 5. Because you asked me, am I afraid of? If you asked me which quarterbacks, I would flip Rodgers and Lamar because I don't think Lamar is where Rodgers is throwing-wise yet. But you asked me fear, and Lamar scares the crap out of me if I'm a defense.
That's fair. That's fair. I was wondering if you were going to slip in somebody else. I didn't know if you were going to put in Drew Brees or
Nope.
Drew
Brees is with Brady with me. Drew Brees is below Brady than me. Yeah, because they both are losing the physical stuff, and I think that this is a thing that I learned from Simpson. I can't shake it. Once you realize that Sean Payton is an offensive genius, you start giving a little bit less credit to everybody else, and it sucks. You know what I mean?
But we don't do that with Mahomes.
Well, because I watched Drew Brees lose an at-home playoff game to the Vikings and look like crap. And I watched him go on the road and not look great. And I've seen plays where Mahomes, when the offense isn't working, and he rolls out and throws it with his left hand. Or you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. I just wanted to push you a little bit. Just see what.
No. And this is not me angry. This is me having enjoyable conversation. But that's why I have Watson so high. Because I think if you put Watson on the Saints, they're the Super Bowl favorite.
I think it was Ron Russillo. I think he said it best. Now, I've been trying to put it in words, and he put it in words so much better than I could. Patrick Mahomes light is Deshaun Watson. Patrick Mahomes light. And it hit me, and it's something I'm on this black quarterback campaign where I said the best quarterbacks in football right now are black, and I love it. I'm loving every minute of it.
It's the top 4.
I said top 5 because I think Dak Prescott could be a top 5 guy.
I think he's very underrated. He's more around the Brady Breeze for me at like 8 or 9.
That's fair.
But in that next pocket is Wentz, Dak, Matt Ryan. I'm not putting Cam there. I think that's a little bit high. Stafford.
See, that's too high for me.
About what for Stafford?
Stafford, because I think that he's the epitome of like great stats, bad team guy. Like his team.
And I would say I had a conversation with Evan Silva today, and that'll be on the Lefkoe show on Monday. And we were talking about how we unfairly criticize players when they have to be on shitty teams, and how many careers have been ruined by being in shitty franchises. That the reason we can have faith in a Jalen Reagor is because he's going to the Eagles, and they're a really well-run organization. But the reason that we have to be a little bit worried about a T. Higgins, because he's going to Cincinnati, and we have no idea what the fuck is going to happen. That's why, for me, the Larry Fitzgeralds of the world and the Andre Johnsons of the world that played with crap quarterbacks, with front offices that were cheap, and they didn't draft well, and they're still all-timers, we celebrate them. But for me, the Lions are one of those crap organizations, where, oh, we got Calvin Johnson. Guess what? We haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher in a decade. In a league where Kyle Shanahan can find a lint ball and he runs for 1,000 yards, the Detroit Lions could, and all they did was draft early running backs. Their linemen stunk. All they had was Ndamukong Suh and no secondary. Matt Stafford, it's you watch the beginning of last year when he was healthy, and you really go and just go to NFL YouTube where they put like games on like 9-minute clips, and just watch some of Matt Stafford's throws and that boring freaking offense they have. Matt Stafford is one of those guys that I always think is underrated.
Would Matt Stafford win a Super Bowl if he was playing in Phillip Rivers' role and the Chargers, or Peyton Manning's role in the Colts? Like, is he the type of guy that you could say
not over Peyton, but Phillip Rivers is very interesting, and I would say yeah.
Okay.
Because I think Phillip Rivers is one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. I think that he is a defensive player's favorite quarterback. When I've been doing some shoots, like I did a shoot recently with Marcus Peters, and we were talking about Phillip Rivers, and he's like, I'm going to miss that guy. I love competing with him. He takes it up a notch. But in my head, I'm going, that's the reason I don't like Phillip Rivers. Because you could walk up to Phillip Rivers after a play and be like, we're going to beat your ass. And he'd be like, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And he's going to yell at you. That's not what I want my quarterback to do. I want my quarterback to be like Andrew Luck. I want my quarterback to be like Russell Wilson, where he pats him on the butt and goes, I'll get you. Or Aaron Rodgers, be like, You know what I mean? Like, even Cam Newton will just look at him and be like, like, I'm not listening to that. Tom Brady, but Phillip Rivers would get emotional.
Is Baker Mayfield the new Phillip Rivers?
I think that we have written the book too quickly on Baker, and I think that Baker could have a big start to the season. I think Baker's going to punch people in the mouth right away, because I think that they needed to go heavy sets. They want to run a lot of 2 tight ends. They signed a fullback. They signed Austin Hooper. They got Njoku and another tight end whose name I always forget. They invested a top 10 pick into their offensive line. They went out and they signed a big offensive lineman too. Who am I forgetting? The biggest offensive line free agent. They signed him.
He's an offensive lineman, so as media members, we don't care about him, right?
No, don't say that. Oh, the one from the Tennessee Titans.
Okay.
Jack Conklin. Bam! Jack Conklin. So they've
That's why he's
invested in
Lefkoe the legend.
Line. Appreciate you. But last year, me and Warren Sharp talked about the entire year. They brought in Todd Monken, the former OC from the Bucs, who loves running 3 wide receiver sets. They had a team with Odell, Landry, and then a drop-off. Remember Antonio Callaway, Higgins, all those guys. Now, they still have Odell and Landry, but now they have 3 tight ends, a fullback, Kareem Hunt, and Nick Chubb. If they go heavy, 2 running backs and a tight end, 2 tight ends and a running back, and Odell and Landry, and you sell out to stop the run because they're playing Nick Chubb, that's when Baker is a baller. And I think, like I said earlier about Mahomes having motivation, Baker needed a kick in the mouth because after last season, man was shooting reality shows, commercials. I'm not saying that stuff is bad, but I think it humbled him to the point where the grind, and I'm not saying he stopped, but I'm saying it's going to get a little bit harder.
So my case for the NFC North having the best quarterbacks, I said that Burrow is the only one that really needs to prove himself, but you got the reigning MVP in Lamar. Baker, you just made the case for him being taken up a notch. Big Ben's coming back. In 2 years, this could be the best NFC North quarterback crop, maybe
AFC
ever.
North.
AFC North. I think they have the best quarterbacks.
I was interviewing Casey Hayward, and he's like, all I have, and he's on the Steelers, all I have in my division is Heisman Trophy winners. Yeah. Burrow, Baker, and Lamar. If I was going to say best quarterbacks, NFC East is out. NFC South is out, even though it's Brady and Breeze, but Teddy. Okay, NFC South is up there. Goff, Kyler, Jimmy G, and Russell. Potential.
AFC South is out because you got
AFC
Phillip.
South is out.
Yeah.
Mahomes, Carr, Locke, and Tyrod. No. I would say the NFC South and the NFC and the North is Mitchell Trubisky, Rodgers, Kirk, and Stafford. I would say it's between the South, the NFC South, the NFC West, and the AFC North. Because I don't know what we're going to get from Ben. I don't know what we're going to get from Burrow, but I do know what you're saying, that Burrow, Baker, and Lamar in 4 or 5 years, watch out.
Mm-hmm. That's what I've been saying. Like, and even though they all play outside, even though that they play in one of the, I think, toughest divisions outside of the NFC North, where it's like Lambeau
Who's
Field.
your team?
I'm a Vikings fan, so so we got cousin Kurt. Yeah.
You don't seem too thrilled about that.
All right, I'll ask you: if you had to pick a neighbor to be an NFL quarterback to be your neighbor, who would you want to pick? Because mine's Kirk Cousins. I think he mows his lawn. I think that his kids stay on their side of the fence. I think he's the perfect neighbor. He is the most frustrating quarterback to watch because of those same things. There's no creativity in the pocket. You had Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, and you're still very, very much 98-cent white bread from Walmart, you know?
If I had to have a neighbor, it's got to be someone that they're not going to be too loud.
Kirk Cousins.
It's got to be somebody that is courteous and at the same time giving. And when I factor all of those things together, I'm going to go with Daniel Jones because I think that I could just see him wearing his khakis, and he led the NFL in fumbles. So you know what? Like he might drop me some goodies that I can take.
But you see what I'm talking about here? Like you wouldn't pick Daniel Jones to be like right now. You wouldn't say
I think Daniel Jones is going to be. Sims has me convinced that Daniel Jones is going to be a baller.
Explain to me, because I haven't seen it yet.
So I'll never forget when me and Sims covered the draft in which it was Jared Goff, Carson Wentz went 1-2, and then it was like Bosa, Zeke, Jalen Ramsey, that draft, 2016. Dak went in the 4th round, I think, 3rd, 4th round. Paxton Lynch was that year. And I remember that afterwards, Sims walked in the office one day and he goes, you know what? Here's the reason because I asked him, why do you think you missed on Dak? Why didn't you see this? And he said, I don't think I looked at the talent on Mississippi State and realized that he was the only one that was going to the NFL. And, because when you got guys like Zach Mettenberger that's playing with Odell, Jarvis, Jeremy Hill, you know what I mean? Or there was another guy, the quarterback at Clemson from a few years ago when he had like Hopkins and Watkins and all those guys.
What was his name? Taj Boyd, right? Wasn't that who it was?
Taj Boyd, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good job. The legend, Andrew Zimmel. Daniel Jones had nobody at Duke. And for him to go into the Giants with an awful offensive line, Saquon missed half the year. Ingram missed half the year. Sterling Shepard missed half the year. Golden Tate missed half the year. All he had was Darius Slayton. And I don't worry about the fumbles because Russell Wilson led the NFL in fumbles his first 2 years. Fumbling as a quarterback early on means you're not afraid of contact. So you're not throwing the ball away and you're like, I'm going to wait for somebody to get open. I'd rather somebody fumbled a lot earlier in their career than threw picks. And I'm worried about Nate Solder opting out because I believe he did. And that, I mean, this was not a team that could afford losses on the O-line. But when Sims comes around on a quarterback that he used to say sucked, I do not question it. Certain people have the eye, and I believe that man has the eye.
So what do you think of Trubisky? Because you could say the same thing about Trubisky at North Carolina, that he was the only guy on that roster that was going to the NFL, and now we see what he looks like in the NFL.
I don't think Trubisky has the vision necessary for the position. Now, could he be like a Ryan Tannehill, where like he needs an offense that fulfills his skill set more? Maybe. Do we think maybe that Nagy got a little bit too creative last year and started trying all this shit and never let his quarterback get settled because he was too busy trying to find ways to get Cordero Patterson to throw a football or something like that? Possibly. I have a lot of doubts about Trubisky because a lot of his mistakes are really, they're just glaring, you know, and sometimes it's obvious. Like Tannehill was still going 11-5 in Miami with nothing. And Trubisky, you know, the games that we remember as his best, it's like, oh, that was a 5-touchdown first half against the Bucs when their defense was 31st in football. But in the bigger games, not since the playoff, the double doink to the Eagles has Trubisky looked good to me. In that game, him and Allen Robinson in the second half were unstoppable in that playoff game in the wild card. Double doink happened, and I haven't seen him since.
I got an example for you. Do you remember a couple years ago when Sims ranked the 70 quarterbacks and put Bortles at like 70? I think Trubisky, if we did that again, wouldn't be 70, but he would be in that like 50-ish range. But Bortles went to the AFC Championship game because he had a defense and a running game. And Trubisky has a great defense, has a really solid running game, and is not winning that division.
His O-line stinks right now. One thing that you should feel good as a Vikings fan, even though like your D-line is like Linval's gone and Everson's gone and you guys were already thin, even though Danielle Hunter is an absolute animal. And by animal, I mean a physical, great athlete. The Bears offensive line, now that they lost Long, I forget which Long it is. Kyle Long, thank you. I don't really have a lot of faith in their O-line. Their O-line took a huge step back last year. They had the Notre Dame coach that came and he was supposed to be great and it really didn't pan out that well. So my thing is that Bears defense was really, really good. It was not even close to as good as that Jaguars defense. I know Khalil Mack is great. But when it was Jalen Ramsey, AJ Bouye, Telvin Smith, Miles Jack, Calais Campbell, Marcel Darius, that defense is a top 10 defense all time for me. And a team that has like, I just didn't think that like Akeem Hicks and that Bears defense is really, really good. I just don't think they're at the Jaguars level.
Is that defense the best defense in the last 20 years not to win a chip? Because that's what I said when this
to not win a chip. So the Ravens won the chip, the Bucks won the chip, the Seahawks won the chip, the Broncos won the chip. We always remember those great defenses. The Patriots defense last year was up there. You know, Patriots, I think they were letting up like 10 points a game and so many turnovers, and Stephon Gilmore and Kyle Van Noy were everywhere. I'm trying to think of other defenses in the last 20 years. They're definitely up there.
When the Jaguars,
if they're not one, they're in the top 3.
when they walked off the field after losing because Blake Bortles just couldn't score any points, I said to the people watching with me, I was like, that's going to be the best defense never to win. Like, it was incredible. I'm still at a loss for words.
I know.
Last thing before I let you go, would you have any advice for young podcasters?
How about I'll give you advice, but I also want to know, is there something that you've been struggling with that you've been thinking about?
Oh, I'll tell you. We can go. All right. So the thing that I struggle with is what we talked about at the top of the pod, was with the patience. Is that you do the YouTube streams, the Twitch streams, record the podcast, set up the great interviews, and then you're not seeing any growth in the listeners, and you're not getting any growth in the audience engagement. And it feels like you're just putting out, and you want to be humble, but at the same time, great content over and over and over again, and it's just silence on the other end, and you're just not connecting with anybody. That, I think, is the thing that is.
How do you release your podcast?
Speaker, you send it to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitch. It's literally wherever you.
And then where does your video go?
YouTube, Twitch.
Gotcha. And you put up the full episode?
Mm-hmm.
Do you put anything on social media?
Yes.
How do you do it?
The same way that see, the only thing I could add to it is, you know how people will snip the best minute and they'll put that as the demo and they'll be like, listen to the pod. That's the only thing I don't do. But everything else is the link and everything there. So that's
I stole this from Gary Vaynerchuk years ago.
Okay.
The only reason that I record my podcast on video is because I've never seen someone on Instagram share an audio file. I do it on video. Like today, we had 6 or 7 different conversations. In addition to posting this on YouTube, cut 6 or 7 different 1-minute clips, and don't be afraid to put them on your social media. If you're going to put, if you have the time for captions, that's great. If you have the time to just kind of write above it what it is, that's cool too. All of that drives back because you're trying to get eyeballs. You know what I mean? I have been where you are, where I get home and I'm cranking and I go, Fendrick, how are the podcast numbers? And they haven't gone up at all. The thing though is don't be afraid to share. So keep sharing on social, but also the social media clips are just as important as the podcast itself. This is fun because it feels pure and it feels like an art form. I read this book, and I would recommend it to you too, called Perennial Seller. And it's written by my guy, Ryan Holiday, who I mentioned earlier. And what he did was he looked at businesses and industries that have existed for 100 years. And what did they do to last for that long? And one of the chapters in the book, it talks about writers, but it could be used for anybody making content, that we almost don't want to market ourselves because we see it as cheapening what we're doing. I'm an artist. I interview people, and then you should listen to the full thing. If you are not willing to do the clips and market yourself, you're not doing the second part of the job. And so to me, that would be my big advice. Don't be afraid to overshare. What's going to happen? Someone's going to say, hey, stop posting so many clips of your show. I want pictures with you and a dog. It's no one says that. And if they unfollow you, they unfollow you. I would also figure out where are group chats that people that might like your content might live. Maybe you take, you know what I mean? Maybe if you post this and then you put in an Instagram story and you tag me in it and then I repost it, or maybe you post it and then I comment and you see comments, send the links to people. You know what I mean? Find places to put your show where people that might be interested in you would see it. And you just gotta kind of go down some wormholes where you just start studying people and you see, oh, okay, what are they reposting? Maybe I should follow that account. Okay, maybe I can post some things here. Discord chats, Facebook groups. But also know that you are very early. You're doing great, and it's supposed to take a long time. Like when I was 22, I was in Nebraska covering city council meetings. I covered a goat fashion show. No lie. I covered tornadoes, and I would come at home and I would take off my tie, and I was like, who gives a crap about any of this? I would post a story I did on Facebook and nobody would comment. And you just keep posting and you just keep posting and you just keep doing it. And the most important thing is you're not doing it for them. The closer you get to making you happy, the more people that will see it, and then they'll want to be a part of it because that shit is infectious. So, I'm telling you it's going to take a long time to make it easier to handle. It's still going to suck. You're still going to post this, and you might not get what you hope to get on this one, but now you can go to somebody else and go, hey, I've had Adam Lefkoe on, blah, blah, blah. And maybe you keep getting more people, but challenge yourself. Every Friday, I usually like to, back when I could before COVID, I would go to a diner around the corner from my apartment. I would sit there with a pen and paper, and I would get a cup of coffee because I need white noise. And I would get a booth, and I would just sit there and try and come up with ideas for the podcast, ideas for the show. And I think the thing about podcasts that I think people get caught up into is they think all I got to do is get the guest, turn the microphone on, and we're going. And I think that you need to constantly be reinventing and constantly be coming up with maybe a new segment, maybe a new way to do it. I'm going to have this guy on. What could I ask him that maybe he's never been asked before? And so for me, I get so much value out of not thinking that what I'm doing is perfect, that what I'm doing is constantly needing to be refined. And it makes the patience part of the job description, where it's going to take a really long time to make something great because that's what it takes. And so, enjoy the little wins, like have fun doing it. Respond to everybody that DMs to you. If somebody says you suck, reply to them and be like, man, sorry you're having a bad day. I love you. And never worry about it. Because the reason they're saying that is they're too afraid to try. So it's easier to shit on you. And so we've all been there. I have fucking been there, I still get people, man, that tell me that I fucking suck. And all I want to do is eviscerate them. But instead I just go, you know what? I know you're having a bad day. And we keep going. And so it's patience for all of us. Adam
Lefkoe podcast, NBA on TNT. You can catch him Tuesdays.
I'll be back on this Tuesday. And then the week after that, we got a little Monday, Tuesday action. The NBA on the campus in Orlando is back in full effect. Let's go. And you can also have the Lefkoe show, but my social is at Adam Lefkoe. Thank you, Andrew. Pew, 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 pew.